Leeds United's goalkeeper situation in the coming season will change from what it has been for the past few years. It has been Illan Meslier time after time after time, but it looks like Illan Meslier is on the way out and a replacement number one keeper is coming in. Carl Darlow thought that was him. It wasn't him. So let's have a little bit of a discussion on what is coming in terms of keeping stuff, because we've had a couple of little updates overnight. But first, before we get into all of that, if you haven't yet, I'd massively appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Nice little button down here, and every time I get a new subscriber, I'll donate an extra 1p to Prostate Cancer UK on the day of the charity match. You can get tickets for that down below as well. £7 for kids, £3 for adults, all going to a very good cause. 1 in 8 men in their lives will end up with prostate cancer at some point. I did the maths, and something along the lines of 7,000 people who watched my videos last month will end up with prostate cancer at some point in their lives. It's a very important cause. I'd hugely appreciate anyone that is willing to support that. Anyway, we'll get into the sort of main story now, but I will talk more about the charity match from time to time. Because Illan Meslier has a coming move. A little bit of news emerged about this yesterday, in that it looks like there's a fair bit of interest coming from Turkey for Illan Meslier. Specifically, it looks like the interest is coming from Fenerbahce, who is a club that we don't particularly have a problem with, unless you're one of the people who doesn't like the entire country of Turkey. And fair enough, we all react to things differently, but Fenerbahce, in my opinion, fine. The numbers that I've roughly seen are in the £5 million-ish sort of region. I'm going to do a lot more research on this in the coming days, just to sort of see how things are. But the reason I've named this Fenerbahce's transfer history is because there's a very interesting little thing that they do, in that when they are on scouting missions or getting players in, they always use the same airline, the same private jet company, and it's always the same few planes. And one of those travelled to Leeds yesterday, and it's travelling back from Leeds in the next day or two. So there's a little something there as well. If you link in the fact that there were news stories before this, airline goes to and from Leeds, you can probably pull something together with that. Very probably Illan Meslier, from what we've heard. It is, in my opinion, the right time for him to go. I did do my best to back the guy, because I just generally like it when people are able to get through times of trouble, especially when it's like a football club that I love. A player doing well for Leeds United is what we all want to see. Didn't work out. Ended up being dropped, admittedly later than all of us wanted to be the case. And I think it is definitely time to move on. He's had his good games, he's had his bad games. He was definitely one of the goalkeepers at Leeds United, but he will need to be replaced, and you can't just chuck in Carl Darlow and say, Alex Cairns, you're the number 2 now. It's not how this works. And coming the other way seems to be a little bit of a sort of complex thing. So the way to put this is that the dominoes have basically begun to fall. When it comes to transfer stuff, you're waiting on one move to happen that causes a second, that causes a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. And then you will be somewhere along this chain. And eventually you'll get the player that you want. So in this specific instance, a guy called Weiss went to Burnley from Karlsruhe, I believe, which meant that, well, this was as a result of Newcastle wanting James Trafford. So Weiss going to Burnley frees up Trafford to go to Newcastle. But what happens with Nick Pope? And Nick Pope is the big conversation that's been going on at the moment, because he is one of the more heavily linked players with Leeds United. And that sort of makes sense. He's a player with a lot of, sorry, it's very warm, like the office at the moment. He's a player that has a lot of Premier League experience. A lot of people do the thing where they see an English player and sort of default to, he's got to be good at what he does without looking on the continent. And it's a relatively easy link, in my opinion, to make. And we have been reported to have a good amount of interest. The specific numbers being heard are a bit weird. I'm just going to have a very quick search just to sort of verify it. I know Ramsdale was valued at approximately 20 million, with Pope being significantly lower, as far as I was aware. Last I knew, he was in the 12 to 15 million pound sort of region. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's a reasonable amount to spend on a keeper, in my opinion. I think the big question for me sits in, is he the right option? Because you don't just want to go for the player that is there. You want to spend a little bit more time and a little bit more effort making sure that the player that you get is the best possible player for that situation. So in this case, I believe Pope is 31, maybe? Let's double check that one to be 100% certain, shall we? Give me a second. Thank you, FBRF. 33 at the moment, which means that he's got a few years left in him, but he's not exactly going to be going to his next club for a very, very long stint. So that screams to me 2-3 year contract. In addition to that, when it comes to his numbers, yes, he per 90 is a reasonably good goalkeeper in terms of like post shot XG, XG against. Passing is a concern for me because relatively few touches per match when it comes to average length of goal kicks, fairly long. Decent enough with saving penalties, to be fair to him, decent enough save percentage. But it's more a case of, and a lot of people will misconstrue this. I know they will, because I can already see that some of you will have probably commented this, and I can see that from the past. This isn't me saying that Nick Pope is a bad goalkeeper. Not at all. He's very obviously a good footballer. What it is me saying is that I believe there are better that are accessible to Leeds United at the moment if we're willing to. What the fuck was that? If we're willing to broaden the horizon. Sorry, I just heard a crackle. So broadening those horizons means the likes of a Dachman, means the likes of a Petrovic, means looking at those top 5 leagues across Europe, beyond as well. Some of the like standout players in the Club World Cup have been the goalkeepers because they will have been peppered by those top European sides and just dealt with it. The Brazilian sides, especially, very, very impressive. And I think in terms of globally, I don't believe he is the right option for us. But if we are looking at getting an English goalkeeper in, of the ones available, I think he's the best option. Michael Cooper at Sheffield United is decent, but he's not been tested at the top level. Ramsdale keeps getting relegated, and I can't get past that in my own head. And I know it's not the most rational of things, but it just keeps on happening. And you want a goalkeeper with a bit of confidence, and I think, in my opinion, that leaves Pope as the best possible option. Probably. Trafford would be the best option, but Burnley aren't going to sell him to us, and he wouldn't come to us in the first place. But who knows? Anyway, to sum up, Meslier, very probably on his way to Turkey, specifically Fenerbahce. Nick Pope seems to be the player that we are most linked with. It's far from certain that that's the direction we're going to go with it, but we'll have to find out. And I wouldn't mind that list of transfers, but I feel like there is better that we could do, which is a fine enough place to be. At the end of the day, we've just been promoted. Not everyone's going to want to come to us, and that is fine. But with all that said, that is just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's always massively appreciated. Equally appreciated are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. That is basically fundraising without you having to do anything aside from click once, so it's wonderful. And you could also become a channel member. It's $2.99 for a month, and you get videos like this one early, including basically the warm-ups to the Creator Cup live streamed, if the live stream is working, because that's the test live stream. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Leave it there, and I will see you later. Ta-ra.